here it is. Hey, hello, it's Marita here. And today, I like to talk about spiritual awakening, okay? By itself, spiritual awakening by itself. And you know what? How it's happening. How it's happening. Do you want to know how it's happening? One day, we're talking strictly about the concept of spiritual awakening. How the first tiny little steps you experience when it's something new, when you're awakening to life, and when you see that you're just in cage that reality tried to construct for you, but in reality it was always you. And listen to that now. Just one day you wake up and something is off. You can't quite know, just something around the air, something inside of you is different. Then not so long after that, and usually for me happened purely with curiosity, just wanting to see that, wanting to feel this, going down on the rabbit hole, and then boom, it flickered. But the thing is that most of the time, spiritual awakening happens randomly and don't ask for you. Even though some people can go through it and doesn't have a clue. I mean, my first ego deaths, I didn't have much of a clue and conscious awareness that I was in ego death, but I was. Oh, the ego death. The ego death is basically when you realize that you're just one with everything and that you're not this spinning thoughts, which by the way were not even yours, they are just injected in your mind. And when you realize that, you get ego death. Oh, and by practical level, ego death happens when you just lie to yourself long enough and don't use your natural power that you have inside, okay? Because what is the ego is this rigid thought structure in your head that tell you what you are and what you are doing. But those thoughts, the ego thoughts, the ego drives, they're not yours. They were somehow planted in you, okay? They're somehow planted in you and you're just, vibing in it. But the vibe, guys, ladies and gentlemen, was not even a vibe. It was just stupid letters inside your mind. And let me get back to the point. It's really, for some people happens so casually, for some people happens dramatically. I will not say which one was I, because I was both, okay? Because I was both. Of course, there comes little drama, especially the casuality of it all. It's really, sometimes it feels casual. It's not something grandiose, okay? First, the first feeling, when you realize, oh, wait a second, something is different inside of me. I feel different. I see the matrix. I see my thoughts. I see how reality is constructed around me. But yet, it's not something like the feeling itself. It feels big. It feels big because you feel so connected to the universe, to everything around you. But it's also casual at the same time because you're here in the body and you're probably doing something pretty meh. And it's like, but the fact is that in those times, if I gotta give one advice how to make it easier, is to not try to figure out when you're inside it, because it's only gonna make everything more complex, and you don't want it to be complex, okay? You want it to, you just need to surrender. You need to let go. Eventually, you realize that alone. But if you're someone that is going through it right now, I'm just saying, just let go. live life, do his processes, because you don't want this. You don't want this, but you will have it. And it's for your greater good, okay? It's for you to awaken your heart and to realize all the things that you didn't realize. This is where it's supposed to healing to happen, which I wouldn't call it healing, but I would call it shedding the ego until it's left, it's the empty space that is you, okay? That is what's happening. Yes, you get the intellectual downloads. You realize some things like, oh, this and that, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But even that, I like to suggest that even that you should not give in too much to that, because, like I said, everything is organic and is gonna happen naturally. But I also want to talk that with all this, at some point, it's becoming fourth. Okay, at some point, it's becoming baseline. Like when you hear spiritual awakening, it's like it sounds really important and glorious, but the reality is that spiritual awakening is not something special, and it becomes fourth. Literally, right now, I don't even like. It's not something that is so special in the long term, because it's just boom like this and you're returning to yourself. I don't know how to explain it to you fully with words actually, but guys, it's becoming pretty mundane after that. I just mean if you're someone that you're in a, even like you just start to ignore it subconsciously, because like it doesn't matter anymore. I mean you still do your I don't know how to say it, but you still go inside. I mean, going inside your mind, inside you is the best way to just skip all this fluff and just surrender. I like to say, just surrender, and you realize that you can choose everything you want and to build it. Okay? Everything is becoming somehow not that big of a deal, right? Because you see what's happening in the world, but you're like, okay, that shit is happening, but what if I constantly react to that shit? I mean, I cannot change by myself this shit. And so, yes, if we can simplify awakening, we can say the most beautiful yet painful experience you can endure. And yes, I will use the word endure, because sometimes it feels like game of endurance. Yeah, not necessarily everything is enjoyable in the moment, but when you know why it's happening for you, it's happening to free you, basically, to free you by the matrix, but you still live in this world. See, that's the paradox. Awakening happens for you, so it can free your mind by the web that is spreaded, which is what? The matrix, but you're still human. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that your life somehow is gonna become more easier. No, I don't wanna lie and say that this is the real deal, like all of your human issues are gone. No, practically they exist. Practically your issues exist, but at the same time they don't matter that much when you think about it, because they resolve. I mean, think about it. Sooner or later, they're gonna resolve, and they're not that much big of a deal when you look at it from higher eyes. They're just not that big of a deal. But in the moment, when we look at our issues, it can be quite, I will use the word sucky. It can be quite sucky. But life resolve itself. Like life is just one big spiral, you know. Life is not just walking, just going, but you know, it's circling you back. It's circling, everything is circling back, resolves itself, so something new starts, then that new needs to go and go, then again hit the certain point, and then you know, just one spiral adventure. And so if someone is in the textbook experience of spiritual awakening, one thing I can say is try to feel this, which is honestly, I think this is the most important part, to feel at ease so you can be clear-headed. It's gonna be quite overwhelming still. It's gonna be storm, it's gonna fly. Things are gonna fly, things are gonna fall, things are gonna fly, and you and me and everyone. But in the end of the day, spiritual awakening is not exactly becoming, okay? Spiritual awakening is returning to the self, and the self can be everything. See, that's it right now. Somebody would say, but how you don't become something when you can be everything? I mean, it's like this. I mean, yourself is life. You're the empty source of energy that can do everything with that energy, okay? But not every moment will be necessarily be taken in one shape or form. Not every moment of your life is gonna be like this and that. It's gonna change. The life is always changing. I mean, when you look at with your eyes, what do you see? You see things that are constantly shifting and changing their skin, changing their color, changing their expressions, upgrading. I was gonna use the word evolution, which, yeah, it's practically evolution, but the process by itself is just constantly shifting, okay? Nothing is certain in this moment, nothing is gonna be certain in that moment, so you can just be here. There's no answer to this and that and this. Nice and steady juice. Basically, don't forget to drink your vitamins. I'm really concerned about you guys because I know that most of you don't take your vitamins. So please, cookies, take your vitamins while being in the process of awakening, okay? Or take your the magic potions are more important. Magic potions are more important. They need to amplify your power, your electricity, you know. So you can take on the awakening as the magician you are. Probably. That's what Marathon wanted to explore for you and to say. Okay? I don't know, so I don't know. The most important part is to don't forget your smile, and don't forget that in the spiritual awakening process you can see many paradoxes, okay? I mean, living is one paradox. Living in the world is one paradox, but especially in awakening, especially in the middle of the process, everything's gonna be paradoxical. You don't know what is strictly you and what you need to do. So just keep your head straight, okay? Keep your head straight, and don't forget that in the end of the day, you're gonna return to yourself, and that is the most important thing, because returning to yourself means becoming at ease and one with life, not in some invisible way, okay? Don't get me wrong. So I say goodbye to you, and this goodbye actually happens like that.